I think that metrics condition behavior. And if metrics condition behavior, there are three dimensions that we have been discussing today. One is the financial dimension, financial performance. The other one is operational performance. And the third one is social performance. I would argue that the financial performance has been it's ahead of the pool of the other metrics which can be done objectively. And that's why it's so easy to measure them. Operationally, depending on how you evaluate the whole thing, it's also okay. And we could argue, without getting too much into the whole thing, that there is a gap between the financial performance and the operational performance. But the one that has been left out of this equation is the social performance. So what I want to know, particularly not from the academics, but from the other two, is which ones are the metrics you would recommend, like are key? Because, I understand the passion that you put into telling the people that they should, and create this sense of community that you create at Starbucks. Yeah. But when we teach at our business schools, we don't have you there. And then not all of them are going to be working for Starbucks. So how do we develop a set of metrics that at least will put in their head, this is the carrot that will close the three sets of metrics, the financial, the operational, and the social?
I certainly respect that you are a professor and you want a metric, but this is not the real world. We don't sit in a room and measure metrics. So let me tell you a very brief story. Last month, and I think this will hopefully give you an illustration. Last month, we went to China. We have 1,000 stores in China. We went to Beijing and Shanghai. We went there for a very unusual, unorthodox reason, to have an annual meeting. Not an annual meeting of shareholders, an annual meeting of parents. Parents of our employees in Beijing and Shanghai. Can you imagine that? You can't put a metric on that. There's no metric. What it is a sensitivity and understanding. And the understanding is the family unit in China and the one child within that family is everything to the parents. We had an obligation and a responsibility, if we're going to build a long-term business, thousands of stores, to build a relationship with the parents. That's no metric for that. It's an understanding that business is not just a financial metric or a financial goal. It's a narrative. And in that narrative is a number of things that you have to do to be successful. And there is this new relevancy. And the new relevancy is the innovation that we all have to have in the marketplace. You also have to have in the social responsibility of being an external good employer to the community, but also innovation to your employees. Doing things for them that are unexpected, that they see value in, and that they want to embrace, and as a result, perform. There's no metric for this.
But Howard, wouldn't you? But I would answer that there is no social metric, that the social piece drives the financial performance and the operational performance. What you're just talking about is everything you did in China drives your enterprise in China.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be more successful as a result of doing the right thing.
But I actually think it's a trap to separate out the social piece. I actually do. I think it's not the thing you do after you do everything else. It's not sort of, we'll run our business and then we'll be good guys. It's what's happening now is going to the core of the business, that the business has to be responsible. And this is my own view. And that the most successful businesses that you look at do have that inherently at their hearts.
Let me just chime in. I agree very much that it's horribly difficult to measure. But I would submit that because of a tendency for it to be more toxically joyful at the top of the organization, in other words, we measure this stuff, and it is true that the view is rosier about the ethics and social responsibility of the firm if you survey the people at the top in contrast to ways down. So we can deceive ourselves that we have to sometimes try to take the temperature of the organization. Now, there's an entire movement that flourished in Europe for the last decade and a half in social accountancy, and it's very fancy. It has a record that I think is unblemished by success. In other words, it has failed at almost every turn. But what I find, when I am pushed to take the temperature of an organization, instead of looking at the black letter principles, the codes of ethics, the credo statements, all that stuff, I listen to the stories that are told. And that way you can get at the culture. And in Starbucks, just what wonderful stories there are that probably almost everybody working at Starbucks knows about. If those stories aren't there and they aren't good, you've got problems.